So welcome back to another episode of the Mini Hoops Pod. In this episode, we're going to be talking more of the Eastern Conference Finals and the results of the Western Conference Finals. We will also be bringing up some NBA rumors around the Warriors and the Raptors and how the Timberwolves still badly want Ben Simmons. So first, let's talk just the Eastern Conference Finals here. What are your guys' thoughts?
Obviously, Game 3 was kind of the Chris Middleton game. 38 points, 6 of 12 from 3. Pretty wild. That was kind of, honestly, the whole story of the game. Trey did have 35, but I think anytime you get 38 from a guy like Middleton on crazy efficiency, 11 rebounds, 7 assists too. Pretty wild. That was basically it for Game 3. Game 4, Trey obviously got hurt, so he didn't play. Lou Williams stepped up, 21 points, 7 of 9 field goal. Pretty crazy. He was big. Really surprised that Atlanta won that game. Giannis got hurt, which was obviously really huge. And yeah, that's basically what I got for the last 2 games of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, obviously the Giannis injury in Game 4 is kind of like set the tone for them. They kind of had no life in them after that, so I can see why they got blown out. But yeah, that Game 3 was really competitive with Trae Young. You know, it was kind of a back and forth game, most of it. But yeah, obviously Milton just went off in that fourth quarter, and I think he scored like 20 points or something, which is crazy to close the game.
Real.
But yeah, it should be an interesting series to see without the 2 stars really for the foreseeable future. Maybe Trae Young comes back. Giannis doesn't look good, but he didn't tear anything, I guess. So I guess it's a possibility. So yeah, it's definitely a still open series. Either team could win.
Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Game 3 was a great game, like you boys said, with how Middleton went off and he was super efficient. And, just Giannis also doing his thing. And then with the fact that Trey got hurt at the end of the game really, really did not help Atlanta. Moving on to Game 4, without Trey, it was pretty close pretty much most of the game until Giannis went down with that hyperextended knee. I'm super surprised that it was not, he didn't hurt anything more than I guess it's just not as bad as what it was or could have been. There's no timetable for return for either of these guys. My thoughts is with the Bucks, maybe they won't play Giannis, just kind of how they're doing like the Kawhi thing what the Clippers are doing, resting him up. If they make the finals, maybe he'll make an appearance in the finals. But overall, that is my thoughts over those 2 games.
Yeah. I forgot to touch on Bogdanovich. He was really, really bad before Game 4. He had not scored more than 10 points in a game since, I think it was Game 4 against Philly. So he had been just horrendous so far. But then in Game 4, he played well. And then I also forgot to touch on Game 5, which was earlier tonight. We are recording late on Thursday evening. And he had another pretty good game. 28 points, 10 of 12 from the field, 7 of 16 from 3. So not fantastic efficiency, but pretty decent. But still wasn't enough tonight for Atlanta, as the Bucks still won behind 33 points from Brook Lopez, 22 from Bobby Portis, 26 from Middleton, and 25 from Drew Holiday. The Bucks got 12 points from their bench, which is not very much, but they were still able to win, which is surprising, without Giannis too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the whole fact without Giannis is crazy to me. How the leading scorer was Brook Lopez, who dropped that 33 points in this Game 5, and just how, like you said, with the bench only scoring 12, that the starters were there to step it up. filling in the shoes for Giannis is hard, but the Bucks did a really, really good job in doing so. Like you said, with PJ Tucker had played 38 minutes, he only had 5 points, but everybody else on the starting lineup had at least 20 plus. Super efficient game, just for Brook Lopez. Crazy stat. I didn't really think he would honestly have a breakout game like this. Another like sleeper talk would be like with Drew Holiday had the 25 points, 13 assists, 6 rebounds, close to that triple double. Looking at now, all Milwaukee starters were plus positive during the whole game, with their bench all being negatives. Just overall, I'm stunned how perfect they played without Giannis. What do you think, Stein?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what they're gonna have to do to win the series is, get everyone involved. And they have a pretty good roster, so losing Giannis is obviously gonna be a big, you know, issue. But I think they have the roster to keep up with the Hawks.
Absolutely. Let's switch over to the West, unless you guys have any super pressing other things that we didn't touch on.
Oh, I mean, the
Pretty
only thing else
fast.
I could bring up with this rest of the Eastern Conference Finals, if Trey does come back for Game 6, I'm just curious if the Hawks can push it to 7. But if these Bucks starters without Giannis can keep playing like this, I think it's going to be either a rollover. I think the Bucks will just win the series win the series in 6
Yeah,
before we touch
I
on
think no Trey. They'll probably close it out in 6. But if he comes back, you never know.
Yeah,
Go for
it'll be
40
interesting.
any given night.
Don't give up on those Hawks.
No way. All right, Western Conference. The Suns officially won. They are moving on to the NBA Finals. What stood out to you guys?
To me, it's how efficient Chris Paul was in Game 6, with those 41 points, 7 for 8 on 3, and with those 8 assists. Another touch would be that Paul George looked really, really tired and kind of had a tough shooting game, but I'm overwhelmed how good the Suns team has looked throughout this whole playoff run. They didn't look that good in Game 5, but they really bounced back in Game 6. And I'm just really curious how, whoever they face in the finals, how they can match up against either team.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the Suns were looking really flat in Game 5. They had looked like such a deep team throughout the playoffs so far, with guys like Bridges and Crowder and Cam Johnson, Cam Payne stepping up. They felt like they just had so many weapons to throw at you, and their team defense was great. Their chemistry was great. But in Game 4, Game 5, and in flashes in this conference finals, they just started to look really one-dimensional and kind of like a thin roster. But in Game 6, they kind of came back. You talked about Chris Paul. He was super efficient. DeAndre Ayton, again, showed out 16 points, 17 total rebounds, 2 blocks, 8 of 10 from the field. You can't really ask for a whole lot more there. Jay Crowder was 5 of 9 from 3, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 6 of 11 from the field. So other guys stepped up. They didn't have Cam Johnson, who's a floor spacer, obviously, but Torrey Craig played big minutes, stepping up there. So I was super impressed in the role players and how they rebounded. Not literal rebounding, but how they bounced back.
Yeah. I do want to give the Suns all the credit they deserve for this playoffs. They were a very good team. They definitely deserve to be in the finals. But I also do want to express my admiration and respect for Paul George and his performance in the playoffs this year. That man, yeah, he stepped up when he needed to. He's always been one of my favorite players, And this performance in the games without Kawhi, like, proved that he's still one of the top players in the league, and he should be getting more respect from like Twitter and all the people on the internet. Uh, like in the 8 games when after Kawhi went down, he averaged like 30 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists, and was able to lead his team over the number 1 seed Jazz, which is impressive right there, and was also able to take the number 2 seed to 6 games, but whatever, they kind of got blown out in game 6. But every other game was pretty competitive, and he was obviously the leading factor for why they were here. Um, yeah, I know he gets like memed on a lot for whatever. It's kind of understandable because like giving yourself a nickname, kind of, it's not really a good idea. But I think after like that 41-point game in Game 5, I think he finally like earned the name Playoff P, and I'll be looking forward to see like how he does next season. Hopefully with Kawhi still there. Please don't leave. But whatever, it was a fun ride. But yeah, the Suns obviously really good team, a lot of really good players, and they just outplayed the Clippers there. So respect to them.
Yeah, well said. Paul George
Mhm.
deserves his credit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Led the postseason in minutes, put the team on his back there. Definitely deserves his
He
credit.
poured his heart and soul out for that team, man. Gotta
Yeah,
give him credit for that.
did everything he could.
But then you also got to give
Absolutely.
credit to CP3, man.
Yeah.
Finally, he made the NBA Finals in his 16 years. I am so happy for the dude, man.
In
Yeah.
LA too,
It's
at
just so
Staples
crazy
Center.
to me how 2 years ago the Suns had the worst record in the NBA, and now they're in the finals. 2 years.
Yeah.
It's
Didn't
just
even make the
crazy.
playoffs last season. Now they're in the finals.
For like the last 10 seasons, I think,
Mhm.
is some crazy.
Right.
Give big props to them.
In other news, reports say that the Warriors want to use the number 7 overall pick from the Timberwolves and James Wiseman to upgrade their roster this offseason. And a name to watch is Pascal Siakam. So if a trade of the number 7 overall pick and Wiseman for Siakam happens, that might create a starting lineup of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Pascal Siakam, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney, or whoever else they decide to put at center. I think that lineup is super, super dangerous. I don't love Pascal Siakam as a player. He's definitely a quality player, and he can play, no doubt about it. But I don't think he's like a big time game changer, anything like that. But it does give the Warriors much needed win now piece, especially if they lose a guy like Kelly Oubre to free agency. Wiggins would likely go to Toronto to make the money work in a deal, or just, I guess, other players might not have to be Wiggins, but that would be really good for the Warriors to launch them back into, contention. Curry and Klay aren't getting any younger. Draymond Green too, so this would help them out a lot to get back to the conference finals or the finals. And for Toronto, they get another top 10 pick and James Wiseman. So having the number 4 overall pick, number 7 overall pick, and James Wiseman, along with their other young talent, is a really great way to kind of launch into a rebuild. So yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Just the whole point with the trade is it scares me, honestly. I'm scared of, even if they don't make this trade, I'm scared how the Warriors are going to be fully healthy again, with Curry and Clay. You touched on how, they're not getting older, or they're not getting younger, sorry. And with that, them trading the Wiseman, it does open that hole at the center position. Or if somehow they keep Wiggins, maybe they run the small ball with Draymond or Siakam at center. That is a scary, scary team going into next season. It just makes the West even more competitive. And then for the Raptors, that just kind of kickstarts the rebuild again. Those number 4, number 7, and Wiseman. I think Wiseman still can be really good in this. Really good in this league. Like you said, he just needs time to develop. Having that Nick Nurse coach, other players like Chris Boucher, and just others, his other staff will be helping him develop and stuff. But I think that this trade is scary, in my opinion, but it's also kind of a win-win for both teams.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree on the win-win. The Raptors, they won their championship, which was good for them, but obviously now, like with Lowry, I think he's 35 now. He's kind of like their leader, so he's getting older. I think it would be probably smart for them to just kind of like give up on trying to win championships right now and probably just plan for the future. And obviously, adding Wiseman and another top 10 pick in this draft would definitely be a great way to, as Waz said, kickstart the rebuild and kind of get their team more on a defined timetable.
Absolutely. I read a piece from, or I guess it wasn't really a piece, it was more of a tweet from Brian Windhorst saying that he thinks that Dwayne Wade thinks that Donovan Mitchell may not want to stay in Utah long term. This was kind of a confusing piece of information to comprehend. So I'm not 100% confident that this is something significant or that this is real, but I think it's something to look into. The Jazz were the number 1 seed this year in the West, best record in the league, but it is Utah. It's no LA, it's no New York, it's no big market. And I don't know if Donovan Mitchell wants to be in a big market, but it seems like almost every player does. So, there's no timetable with this. It's not like he's going to request a trade or anything. And I think this could be an issue down the line, a couple years down the road. But I don't really believe that Donovan Mitchell wants out of Utah right now. What do you guys think about this whole situation?
I would also agree that I don't think Donovan Mitchell wants out of Utah right now. But another thing I've been thinking about is how with the whole tension between the COVID thing with Rudy Gobert and him last year, how basically Rudy Gobert gave Donovan Mitchell COVID last year. I feel like that's still in the back of his mind. And then the fact that you brought up, that Utah is not a big market team. Like you said, you don't know if Donovan Mitchell wants to go to a big market team. Maybe he does. He wants to grow his brand more. But it's just kind of a confusing take that or a confusing report from Windhorst.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. You don't really hear a lot of reports like this when a team gets like the number 1 seed in the conference. So, especially in the Western Conference, which means you are definitely a strong team. So, like, it's really weird to hear reports saying like the star might want out. So that's why I'm kind of skeptical of this. But I mean, yeah, I guess it could be a problem in the future if that's not in Donovan's plan to build his career in Utah.
Yeah, absolutely. And to finish it off, we'll touch on Ben Simmons again for like the 3rd straight episode. It's probably pretty reasonable because he's center of attention right now.
Yeah,
but according to
we need something.
oh yeah, of
we
course,
need
some
these Wolves rumors and talks.
But according to Darren Wolfson, who is a reporter for Timberwolves related news, the Minnesota Timberwolves badly want to trade for Ben Simmons, which is good news for us. Absolutely. What do you guys think about hearing that?
Having known that we've been wanting Ben Simmons since last year when we had the number 1 pick available, it makes sense that the Wolves really badly want him still. I have also been hearing another report from Darren Wolfson that the Wolves want to acquire Simmons, but also by keeping the big 3 of Cat, D'Lo, and Ant. There's really no point, or I don't know. There's really no steam right now with how the teams are going. But I've been hearing from Darren Wolfson himself saying that that the Wolves want to pair Simmons with D'Lo and Cat and Ant because of how good of a relationship that Simmons has with D'Lo. They played high school basketball together, and how Cat and Ben have become good friends over the last couple of years.
Yeah, obviously it would be huge to find a way to keep the big three together because I think that's probably our future. Like we don't really want to trade someone who will be like a big or who was like a big part of our team last year. We're just trying to get better. We're not really trying to like trade, like one or
Shuffle the
whatever.
deck.
Shuffle, yeah, shuffle it
Mhm.
up and when we don't really know if that's gonna work. We just kind of want to acquire more stars, which is, I don't know. I feel like we should have enough power right now to, compete, but I don't know. It's the Timberwolves. We'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think if we just made a move for Simmons, trading D'Lo or basically just D'Lo, I'm okay with parting with Beasley, as I think a lot of other Wolves fans are. But yeah, I don't know how much better we get if we part with D'Lo and picks and maybe a role player or two. I don't know that we're a significantly better team with Simmons minus those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of seems like a step to the side instead of a step forward. We'd be better defensively, sure, but offensively, that's a step back.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, from my understanding is, Gerson, he doesn't want to trade D'Lo for Simmons when he can partner them both up that already have this coexisting relationship. Um, it'd be nice to somehow, if you make that deal with a Rubio, Beasley, and maybe throwing Culver there, and then a bunch of future first round picks. But the thing with that is it's tough because Philly still wants to be a competent team in the East and wants to win and win now. They're just like how the Warriors. They're not. Embiid isn't getting any younger. They need to keep winning. So if you want to make this trade without giving up D'Lo or Cat or Ant, which they wouldn't give up Cat or Ant, but hypothetically, you gotta make that third team come in. You can't not have Philly just not have. Well, if you give them assets, they still need to find a way to flip them to stay a good team in the East, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if this Raptors team does trade Siakam, that them coming in with the Kyle Lowry sign-in trade with the Wolves and Sixers is kind of the next domino because there's no reason for Toronto to keep Lowry or whoever else, any other win now piece if they trade Siakam. So I think if that deal does happen or just any deal with Siakam, that as a Wolves fan, I'm kind of going to be on edge and get a little bit excited maybe because I think they've got smart executives there. Masai Ujiri, obviously, he's going to get what he can for Kyle Lowry. So, and I think a 3-team deal to Philly makes a lot of sense. We don't know for sure if Kyle Lowry wants to be in Philly, but I think the fit is just perfect.
Yeah, there's a bunch of news that could happen in the next future. Just look forward to it as being a Wolves fan and just being an NBA fan all in general. Just crazy. We'll see what happens before the draft or even after the draft and before free agency. So yeah,
It's pretty standard for us Wolves fans to not be engaged in June and July, but when the draft rolls around, we get excited because we haven't heard anything or watched the team play in the playoffs for months. This is the time of year.
and that's like the thing too, where we're such a small market team. No free agents are gonna come sign in Minnesota. That's why Gerson Rosas is always big star hunting. If you want to make a big play to this team and make it competent again, you got to make a splash this offseason.
Absolutely.
It's the
Mhm.
only way we're gonna get a good, competent player to come to our team.
Yeah, don't even have picks this year, so we can't even do it through the draft.
Well, perfect, boys. That was another great episode, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side next.